Olivia, have a great show.
Thank you.
Live in 3, 2, 1. You're live now.
Hello, everybody. Good evening from here. I can already feel you joining in to the shield. I feel like there's quite a lot of different souls interested in the topic that I'm going to speak about today, because as you can guess by the background behind me, we'll be speaking about the sun. The topic is the sons of creation. And we'll be looking into different aspects of what the sun is on the first place, because it's much more than just like a light bulb on the sky that is giving us the heat and is helping the plants grow. It's much more than that. We'll be looking at the sun in context of the internal and the eternal creation, and of course also our external worlds, how the sun has been a little bit twisted in this solar system, what is the current energetic condition of the sun, and also what's going on these days with the sun when it comes to this, all of these solar flares literally striking the planet and the people directly living on it. So we'll be seeing how actually the energy of the sun has been used over the years, over the last centuries, in order to cause certain changes, in order to trigger certain events. We will also speak about something that I mentioned a couple of months ago about the solar symbiosis process and what is the effect of the solar symbiosis on the entire creation and how come it's related to the eternal life potential. We'll be speaking about the plasma suns, and we'll be speaking about, well, I'm not going to say the name of this type of the suns yet, but they are larger than the plasma suns. Let's say they are the eternal core suns of the source. Maybe that's how we can refer to it. So I would say that we've got quite of an interesting topic. I hope that 2 hours will be enough to cover it. So I guess we can begin. I'm going to start with actually explaining what is the energetic difference between the planets and the suns. Because what is very important for us to realize is that actually in an organic system, if we look at the sky and we are seeing all of these stars, what if some of them are actually also planets, but we perceive them as stars because they have something called the chronosphere. So they are emitting this radiant light from them. Actually, this planet is also supposed to have its organic chronosphere, but due to certain manipulations done to these grids, to this planet, and to the solar system in general, we don't quite have it anymore. We don't have this beautiful radiant layer emanating from the planet. So if we take a look at it this way, each planet that is eternal is supposed to have a chronosphere. We'll speak about it in a moment. And so if we look at it this way, the scientists cannot really make a difference. What is the star? What is the sun? What is the actual difference? I mean, the star is the sun. But how do we actually make a difference? What is the planet and what is the sun if all of them are shining so brightly? So we'll take a look at it. Okay, so in that case, the first question is, what is the energetic difference between planets and suns? So a sun can be considered as a central body of the system, which holds all encryptions of all of the planets, or just, let's say, stellar bodies around it, and at the same time maintains and enables their indelible connection to the source fields and to other suns of higher frequency spectrum. So the sun is profound in a way because it's always the sun or the central star, whatever you prefer to call it, is always in the center of a certain system, and it's like a 0 point of each of the stellar planetary systems. And since it's the 0 point, it's holding the direct connection to other central suns and also to the source fields. So it's a point from which you can actually enter creation and leave the creation and come back to the God source unified field. So in simple terms, the sun is the central dominion through which the planet receives unlimited access to eternal life frequencies. A planetary body which rotates around the central sun can be perceived as a part or as an aspect of this sun. So a planetary body is an individuated aspect in itself, but energetically it holds a part of the encryption of something that is referred to as the solar shield. So for example, Earth is containing a part of the morphogenetic field of the sun. And same is with Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. All of them basically contain a part of the morphogenetic field of the sun, and the sun is holding all of these encryptions of all of the planets and the stellar bodies of the entire solar systems, of the entire solar system. So in an organic eternal life system, we have 12 planets rotating around the central sun. And now when it comes to the solar system, this one got a little bit twisted because organically we have the Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, and then we've got the asteroid belt, which actually used to be a planet called Maldek, and now we are only seeing its shattered parts. Then we've got the Jupiter. So actually Saturn is not the 6th planet, Jupiter is. That's like a certain distortion in some of the beliefs. So we've got Jupiter as the 6th, then Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. Then we've got like a smaller planetoid called Uron. And organically we should have Nibiru. The only reason why the scientists didn't quite identify Nibiru, they talk about this planet X, which is having like a very large orbit, but it seems like they don't want to identify it for certain reasons. So our solar system also had 12 planets. We can say that right now it has 10 or 11 planets. There are still, and it's important to realize that also the sun, as we say, is the portal, but we think like, okay, well, it's the portal to the 4th dimension or whatever. Actually, it's a portal that can lead you all the way up to the galactic central sun, to the metagalactic central sun, to the universal central sun. So it's like a huge portal that can lead you all through the staircase to heaven. And all of the planets are also stargates. They are like smaller stargates of the solar system. But basically the sun is always this central body through which you can make your way, well, in organic conditions, you make your way through the sun up to different levels. So again, and this, what I'm reading right now about these 12 planets rotating around the central sun, this is how the organic universe, how the organic galaxy is supposed to look like. But because we live in a little bit of a twisted galaxy and a little bit of a twisted universe, it doesn't fully work like that. But as we basically start the reset of this entire system, we are progressively going to get there. So every single solar system, galaxy, universe, and cosmos has a main central sun at its core, and this central sun holds the indelible connection to the Aya God source. Aya is basically just another name for the God source fields. If there's any specific interference done to the sun directly, the entire system, and that means the planets rotating around it, also get the same distortion. So if something is done directly to the solar shield, that means that the other planets could also get harmed. And that's what has been quite used against us, where sometimes instead of attacking this planet directly, there's been some very harmful things that were done directly to the sun and the solar shield. A sun itself is a portal, but it shall be perceived from a much larger perspective. It is a gateway to ascend from a system and show up in the next dimensional set that this sun is directly connected to. It is also worth mentioning that the sun and the planets surrounding it are exchanging energy quantum with each other through the organic process of the solar symbiosis. So it's like the Mars would be sending us the energies, we would be sending the energies back to Mars. Then we would align with Jupiter and we would exchange energy with Jupiter. Then the sun would come into the game and it would send us a lot of energies into the system, and we would send a part of it back. There would be a constant energy exchange, but it doesn't take place because, first of all, the planet Earth got isolated, even like the planet itself, due to its frequency field. It's isolated from the rest of the planets, and also these Van Allen belts are making it worse. And the solar system itself is also in a quarantine because of the Oort cloud that is surrounding the entire solar system, and it's actually increasing the gravity level of the entire solar system, and that's why our system is way too dense. And because it's way too dense, it's difficult for it to actually enable any kind of organic exchange. This is changing now, but we've been actually quarantined not only on a planetary level for a long time, but on the level of the entire solar system. So that is very interesting in itself. Even if you tried to get out of the solar system, like you managed to get your way out of the planet, where are you gonna go next? Like you need to know which passage you need to choose to actually get out of here. So when it comes to the sun, it is actually a gateway. I'm talking about the sun specifically in this solar system. The sun is actually interfacing with a few different locations in this galaxy. And depending on the level of your frequency, it's the best to choose as the best gateway as possible. When it comes to the worst kind of reversals that started happening in this galaxy, this is something referred to as the monadic reversal. And this is an absolute reversal of the sun and its fields, like the Merkaba field of the sun, of the solar body, starts to run on absolute reversal. It's basically this 55 Death Star Merkaba configuration. All right. So when it comes to this question that I referred to in the beginning, does every organic planet have a coronosphere? So the answer is yes. Every planet is supposed to have a coronosphere. And just to make that clear, the coronosphere is the outer layer of atmosphere of the sun, which is extending into space, and it is basically consisting of hot ionized gas. It's visible during a solar eclipse as a halo of white light. So it's basically this radiant layer on the outside. Every planet, in its organic form, emanates pure light from its core that goes all the way through the surface and emanates beautiful, colorful gases in the atmosphere. So there is like a lot of very intense energy charged in the core, and then from the core it's going through the surface and out to the grids and to the various layers of the atmosphere. And as it's going to different layers of the atmosphere, this energy starts to change its density, its form, and eventually in the layer of the coronosphere, it starts to manifest as these beautiful, colorful gases. As long as the planet's elementals are aligned with their divine blueprint, the Merkaba fields are not reversed, and the planetary vertical chamber is aligned with the sun's vertical chamber, the planet will have its coronosphere active. So, as long as the planet is having its stuff, its vertical chamber not tilted, just like ours is tilted, but it should be pretty much aligned, like the planet is not supposed to be tilted to its axis. And as long as the Merkaba fields are in their Christic configuration, and the planet is basically aligned with the divine blueprint, that means that it's basically manifesting everything on this Katara grid 12 tree, divine blueprint. That's when this solar symbiosis can take place, as long as everything is okay with the sun as well. Our planet's coronosphere got deactivated about 10,000 years ago and got blocked due to installation of the frequency field. However, the current solar flares that are being sent out to the planet start to again reactivate the planetary coronosphere. So basically these solar flares that are coming in, they start to shift the entire structure of the planet. They are kind of heating up the planet at its very core. The planet kind of starts to speed up. That's why we feel like the time is also speeding up, because the planetary shields are spinning quicker. And as we are increasing frequencies, the time is just going way much faster. And that is allowing for the planet to finally start losing its tilt. So the tilt becomes smaller and smaller. And that progressively starts to activate different configurations in the planet's atmosphere and in the underground as well, that allows the planet to basically come back to its organic encryption. So naturally, we would have this process of the solar symbiosis, where there would be this outflow energy coming from the sun, and then we would be returning a part of the energy back, and basically this would create beautiful arcs of energy between the sun and the planets, because it's not just our planet that is receiving this exchange, but also the other planets rotating around the central sun. And that was actually a reason to celebrate. That was, like, I would say, the Christic astrology, when certain planets were coming together in one alignment, and they would be starting to spark and create these electric currents running between them. And then these huge energy arcs would be reaching the sun, and the sun would be getting energized, and then it would be returning the energy back, and then the planets would return it again. And it would be like a beautiful play of energies and play of colors. And that's when many life forms on different planets were able to benefit from it, because these were organic Christic alignments, as I said last week, because of different manipulations that were done to the solar system, not just to this planet. We don't have so many of the Christic alignments in astrology astrology is tracing alignments that were kind of forced on different planets as they are spinning in either too fast or in the wrong direction, and then you're just getting these really twisted alignments all over the place, while I feel like there would be like a very specific formula that would allow you to kind of be able to measure when certain planets are coming together. This would be very regular alignments, and everything would kind of make much more sense, I think. There would be like, I sense that there's like a divine constant to the speed of the planets rotating. So probably Mercury would be having like a specific, there would be like a specific proportion between the speed rotation of Mercury comparing to Earth. And I feel like it's not just dependent on the gravitational field, but just to make that very clear, this is purely theoretical, and I'm absolutely not a physicist. I'm simply seeing things. I'm a visionary, and that's what I'm sharing with you. I'm sharing with you my visions. Whether you choose to believe in them and whether they resonate with you, that's completely up to you at this point. Okay, so now we are going to speak about the plasma suns of the internal, eternal creation, and how are they connected to suns of the external creation. Because for now I was speaking about the central suns of this universe, and this universe is the external creation, but there is like a creation that created the external creation, and that is the internal creation. And the internal creation came from the eternal creation. But I was saying that multiple times, so I'm not gonna expand on it again. So these suns of the external creation, some of them can get reversed, and then that becomes a problem to some systems. So I would say that the sun of this universe can get reversed, but like of this time matrix. But if we look at the Eka level, so it's like we've got the Akasha structure, which is containing this, actually it's containing the 12 cosmic matrices, and then you've got the central Eka. So I think that these different 12 Eka systems, they can get completely twisted, but the central Eka sun, it cannot get reversed. So like the entire structure can fall, but the core never will. When we have these wheels within wheels, certain parts of the wheel can fall, but the core can never fall, because the thing is that if the core was about to fall, then it's like the entire system would never be able to rescue itself, and then there would be no free will for these beings to choose whether they want to find a solution to come back to the source fields instead of just returning in the form of the space dust. So that's why the sun that is like on these very, very core levels, not just like on the galactic level, but like on these very huge cosmic levels of the Cosmea and the Cosmaya, these suns cannot fall, just to make that clear. So when I speak about the plasma suns of the internal, eternal creation, they cannot fall. And that's why we can use their frequencies for different applications. So these suns, these plasma suns, are on the top of the staircase of the external creation, and they interface directly with the internal creation. So it's like, I always see it this way, that there is one side of them that is on the external creation level still, but the other side is already on the internal. And now these suns cannot fall on the internal creation level, but they can fall on the external, except for that core sun, right? All of the creation emerges from the central crystal flame located in the center point of the host of Cosminas in the Sunate core. So maybe I'm just going to explain that quickly to those who have no idea what I've been talking about, because I just realized that I took it as something obvious, but I guess that would be obvious for my students that I've been explaining that to, but not to those who don't attend my classes. So there are 8 plasma suns of the eternal internal creation. And the sun 8 is actually the sun that is invisible. I will speak about that sun in a moment. And the sun 8 was actually like, let's say, the first one, right? So there is like the sun 1, which is at the core, but the sun 8 is like encasing all of them. And then the suns coming, the suns 2 to 7, they are the other suns that kind of got created during the whole process. And all of the creation, everything that we see exists within the fields of these 8 plasma suns. And now the sun 8 is special because it's holding the encryption for all of these suns. So it's like the central of the central suns. And all of the creation emerges from the core of sun 8. And in the core of sun 8, we've got something called the halls of Cosminias, which are the cosmic records. And in the core of the cosmic records, we've got the crystal flame. So I hope you still follow up. And everything that ever comes into existence emerges from the crystal flame in the center point of the halls of Cosminias in the sun 8 core. So the core plasma suns of the internal eternal creation thus hold indelible connection to God source fields and hold encryptions for manifestation of everything that exists in the external creation domains. So what I wanted to say here is that this is also kind of like these suns are like a boundary between the internal and the external creation worlds. Once you start to go directly to the core of one of the plasma sun, you are already on the internal creation side. Every central sun in the external creation has specific sets of frequency seals that, when released, open the energy circuit between eternal plasma suns and that central sun. So this is kind of like a fail-safe thing that when the sun opens something called the Kala Okshatei seals in 2015, and the Kala Okshatei seals are basically the seals in the plasma template that enabled for the flow of these eternal suns directly to the central sun of this solar system, our sun, and then it also started spreading these frequencies to the rest of the planets. And especially to Earth, because actually Earth is the one that agreed for receiving these plasmas in the first place. Each one of us originally came from one of these plasma suns. Each one of us originally came from one of these plasma suns into externalization. So there are certain races that are actually the guardians of these plasma suns, and they are referred to as the Alhambra races. And we can say that since they are the guardians of these suns, especially those which govern the sun 8, which is like this, the biggest sun, let's say, they are also governing the entire creation, because after all, they make sure that all of these different templates in these plasma suns, they remain in the integrity and they cannot get reversed. So it's like whenever you're looking for your organic indelible encryption, just go to these suns, to these plasma suns. When the central sun of the solar system, galaxy, etc. activates its seals that open up to internal eternal creation, same happens in the individual's personal template. It is a calling back to Aya source. So basically when the sun opened its Kala Okshatei seals, and then the planet did the same, we also had the chance to open these seals, and we still do. And these seals are basically opening the plasma flows in our template. We hold the connection to these plasma sun cells through specific codes in the DNA template that are referred to as the CRIST factor. This means we can bring these pure plasma frequencies directly to our bodies. Thanks to this connection, we can receive energies coming right from the core of this entire creation. And we can say that collectively, all of these suns and all of the external creation worlds within it, all of this huge creation aspect, because these are not just the small 8 suns, but they are like huge. They are really, really big. This all can be referred to as the Christ-star, like a single Christ-star. And that will become important as I go to the eternal core suns, but I will get to that later. Okay, so now I will just explain a little bit when it comes to the context of is our cosmos an atom or a bubble? And this is actually very interesting, and this came up to me when my ex-boyfriend told me, well, I actually think that the cosmos is an atom. And I thought to myself, like, yeah, it is. It definitely is. But I don't think that it is an atom the way you explained that it is. And now I don't remember how he explained it, but I remember that it was full of the New Age stuff and it definitely didn't resonate with me. But I just couldn't get it out of my head. Like, how come I feel that the cosmos can be compared to an atom, that it is actually an atom? But how would I relate it to everything I've been learning so far? So I started receiving a lot of visions. I would be walking in the forest and I would just see these sun cells everywhere. And there was a point when finally it's like this direct cognition came in, and I managed to understand that the sun is an atom because actually everything exists within the fields of the sun 8. So it's not like, because it's like a very popular model that is showed everywhere, that there are just like this, there is like let's say like a circle of these plasma suns, right? There is the sun 8 in the center and everything is around it. Well, not exactly. Actually, everything is within these sun fields. So I'm just gonna read the answer that came through finally, like more of a structured answer to that. So our cosmoverse can be perceived as an atom because everything happens in the fields of sun 8, which is the golden white stealth sun. And it's called stealth sun because you cannot really see it. It's invisible, but it's there. It's like an pre-substance energetic construct. It is a sun that you cannot see, but actually it is everywhere. The plasma core light emanating from the core of the host of Cosminas is so large and so bright that it reaches the entire creation. This actually looks like as if we were located inside of a huge cosmic bubble. This is a structure of the Christ-star. It is a beautiful, fractal, organized bubble. So the theory of our cosmos being an atom is accurate if we look at it from this perspective. It is, however, an atom that is very conscious of itself, and it perfectly knows what it's doing. The Sun 8 field is composed of highly spiritualized conscious plasmas that all the life forms that coexist within this field are made of. So we are made from the Sun 8 plasma, let's say. We are all made from it. It's just like we are a very much downstepped frequency, right? Because the Sun 8 plasma, which is actually like a pure plasm, pre-substance plasm, it's actually beyond any kind of dimensions. So once it needs to be downstepped into specific dimensions, it starts to become more and more dense, and it starts to change its density and its form of matter. And eventually, when it comes to the third dimension, well, you can see yourself what it looks like. And it would be much lighter if it hasn't been twisted at some point. But so this is it. When it comes to our cosmos being an atom, it is an atom, but it's like a very, very conscious atom, and it has like a specific structure to it. Nothing is coincidental here. These are not just like these laws of physics where there was like some kind of big bang and suddenly we have all of these crazy stars all over the place. No, it was all coming out from the center point and expanding from that place outwards. And that's how we are here, because everything started to expand itself. So I hope this is clear to everybody. I always struggle whenever I try to explain the plasma suns, because it's something that you also need to experience by yourself a little bit. Like, I don't know, before going to sleep, you can just intend to go there in the dream state. I had only one experience like this, where I felt like I was in these Sun-8 fields, like right at the core, but it was so bright that it's like my eyes were struggling extremely, and then for 2 days I just felt like all of the lights in this realm were also blinding me. But I remember that I was seeing all of these light beings around me, and I knew that I was entering these different passages, and actually it feels like these Sun-8 planes are so beautiful that words cannot describe it properly. So it's also a matter of a certain feel to it and a certain experience. And it's definitely not something that you can just prove just like that, because you cannot see this energetic construct. You cannot see this huge amount of the Sun-8 that is emanating these energies, because they are way beyond the spectra of the light that we can measure with any kind of devices here. But the fact is that a part of these solar flares, not all of them, but a part of them are actually coming directly from the Sun-8 core. And the Sun-8 core is actually receiving even higher frequencies at this point, and it's sending all of them directly to our sun, and later it's beaming the planet. And as I said, each one of us is coming from one of these plasma suns. And I'm just going to say what are the colors of these suns, so you could kind of just hear about them if you never heard about them before. And as I said, the Sun 7 is the lowest in frequency. And then it's going like 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then the Sun 8 is like, let's say, the collective sun that is holding the encryption for all of them. So Sun 7 is violet. Sun 6 is indigo. Sun 5 is green. Sun 4 is blue-green. Sun 3 is blue. Sun 2 is white. Sun 1 is aqualine, kind of like a blue-white, let's say. And the Sun 8 is in the white golden color. So if you feel very much connected to these beautiful white golden frequencies, that might be suggesting that you're coming from the Sun 8. And if your soul is coming from the Sun 8, that actually means that you're holding something called the K+8 factor, which is like a very special transfiguration factor that allows you to process and to transmit all of the plasma currents from all of the creation suns. So also the codes that you have in your template, they determine what kind of plasma currents you can basically embed into your DNA template. When it comes to figuring out from which sun you're coming from, this may come with time. But for example, you can ask yourself before going to sleep, like, please give me an answer from which sun I'm coming from. And you may just say it like see a specific color, like let's say you will be dreaming and everything will be green around you, that might give you a suggestion that you're from the Sun 5, which is green. If you're kind of like more like of a clairvoyant person and you happen to see different orbs from time to time in your fields, you may receive some clues to which sun you're connected to. So for example, if you're seeing blue orbs, that might suggest that you're from the Sun 3, which is the blue sun. And those who are connected to Andromeda, if you feel like you're a starseed from Andromeda, there's a lot of souls that are connected to the blue sun, just from my experience. And you can also try to visualize yourself in the middle of these sun fields. And you can try to see to which one of these suns you'll get pulled towards. So you just visualize yourself that you're suddenly surrounded by these suns that are kind of rotating and spinning. And just take a few deep breaths and try to see which sun attracts your attention the most, or to which one you would like to project into directly to its core, because you can do that. So this is just like a clue when it comes to discovering from which sun you're coming from, and then once you find out from which sun you come from, you might receive your individual name that corresponds to this sun. All right. Excuse me. So now when it comes to the solar symbiosis process and its effect on creation and the eternal life potential. So there is a natural energy exchange that takes place between the sun and the planets rotating around it. The sun in the central position can be perceived as the point zero of the entire system. The point zero holds its direct connection to the source. So the energy goes through this point back to the source, an outflow of the energy, and then the source sends out a new recharged frequency wave, which is the backflow return. Every single planet is holding a portion of the sun's morphogenetic field. Thus, there is no separation in the system. A solar, galactic, or universal body is a one system that is circulating energy throughout its different aspects. A central sun is a point of union that holds the imprint for all of its aspects coming together, and that can be referred to as the solar shield, on which all the planetary shields are based upon. The process of organic solar symbiosis enables us to co-create as a system that is not separate, but it is a unified field that through the perpetual energy circulation is able to provide us endless supplies of energy quantum that enable the eternal life potential to activate within the life fields of all of the solar planetary aspects. Okay, that was quite a long sentence. When I'm just like in the flow of writing, I even forget about making the sentences shorter. So I will just read the last sentence again in a slower rate. The process of organic solar symbiosis enables us to co-create as a system that is not separate, but it is a unified field that through the perpetual energy circulation is able to provide us endless supplies of energy quantum that enable the eternal life potential to activate within the life fields of all of the solar planetary aspects. So this means that actually the solar symbiosis is like the mirror reflection of the unification that is taking place in the system, where we can see that there are planets and they are just having a life of their own. But the solar symbiosis process is actually the one that shows that all of these planets are in perfect synchronicity with each other. And all of them, even though they are separate, all of them are aiming to be unified by receiving all of these different energies from the central sun that enable these planets to get back their encryptions, so they could become one with the fields of the sun again. And that could take billions of years, but it is the process that eventually takes place. And now when it comes to the Brettarianism and the connection to the solar symbiosis process. So organically, in natural conditions, the human race is supposed to be Brettarian. Just like the planet is supposed to naturally do energy exchange with the sun, we should do exactly the same thing. We actually do not need to eat or vampirize on other life forms as long as we have an access to unlimited energy supply that the sun is providing to us. Another aspect of the genocide agenda against the humanity are the toxic gases, and this is purely theoretical. This is just what I was seeing, but I have to share that vision. Another aspect of the genocide agenda against the humanity are the toxic gases that are spread to Earth's atmosphere, blocking the sun energy to fully reach the surface of the planet. So certain toxins are spread to Earth's atmosphere, in my vision, and they are not allowing all of this solar energy to get directly to the surface of the planet. That's why most of the vegetables, fruit, and other plants we have, and animals as well actually, they are much smaller and they are distorted. The lens inserted in front of the solar shield and the toxic gases don't enable organic plant growth. Brettarianism right now is not the best option, since we don't even have full access to the entire solar frequency spectra. However, it is a great potential for the future timelines of this planet. So this is like a goal that we are going towards, but it's not the best thing to do right now. So don't become Brettarian. It's not really going to change the fact that the sun is still a little bit blocked at this time, even though it has opened much more if we compare it to a few years ago. However, thanks to the solar symbiosis process, we were able to be Brettarians, and we didn't need to eat, right? All we needed was the solar light, and that was also enabling us a much closer connection with nature, because we were spending most of the time outside, just charging ourselves with the solar frequencies. Our skins had very special receptors that were allowing us to bring in the solar energy directly to our DNA and to our molecules in the body for rejuvenation. So this is just like a fact about ourselves. Okay, so now I'm going to get into explaining a little bit about the solar activity cycles, what they really are, how they are influencing us, and how the energy of the sun has been used for quite a few centuries in order to cause certain events on this planet, because actually there is a direct correspondence, there is a direct relationship between different military conflicts, different world wars, and the solar activity. They actually always take place during something referred to as the solar maximum. So I'm gonna explain what that is. So the solar activity cycles take place every 11 years. So they are the 11-year sunspot cycles. And I imagine that this is also distorted because, again, we have the number 11 instead of 12. So I think that the sun is having these activity cycles because it's depleting too fast. Especially that these cycles started to be measured from about, I think it was like the end of the 18th century, and right now we are in the 25th. solar activity cycle. So it feels like there's been certain things done a few centuries back to kind of increase the depletion of the sun. Even though before that it was also carrying certain distortions, but for some reason we started measuring these activity cycles, even though there's been some astrologists that were aware of that even before. But when it comes to the official data, they started measuring that from about the 18th century. So when it comes to the solar activity cycles, we've got something referred to as the solar maximum, and this is when we are experiencing a high number of sunspots and the increased solar activity. And it is predicted that the solar maximum will take place around November this year, 2024. Or like there's like the scientists don't really know when it's gonna be like the maximum peak. They say it's gonna be between November this year of 2024 until March of 2026. So this is basically the date, even though they say that it should happen like around July of 2025. I think it may happen even faster, to be honest. But these are the predicted dates. And now when it comes to the solar maximum, there's a lot of things happening during the solar maximum. That's when the energies get very increased. So if you want to understand why you're struggling with certain things in your emotional body right now, it would be good to listen right now to what is actually happening during the solar maximum. And of course, we have also something called the solar minimum. That's when we have fewer sunspots and the decreased solar activity. And that's when the situation on the world is getting more peaceful. So it's kind of like they want to use the solar maximum energies right now in order to use it for certain purposes, because that's when humans are more vulnerable to certain manipulations. So right now we are in the cycle of increased solar activity, and these intense energies affect the entire planetary life field and the events taking place on the global arena. That's when during the solar maximum, the intensity of important mass events on the collective scale occurs. It may include military and political activities in all sorts of shape and form, the economical changes as well. We are connected to the sun on a personal and collective level. We may feel like everything is accelerating in our personal lives, as well as when it comes to different shifts on a global arena. The sun has been always present in our culture, setting the rhythm of the day and the seasons. All of the changes that occur within the solar biofields have a significant effect on us, since the increase in solar activity transforms human potential energy into the kinetic energy. So there's like a lot of energy moving, a lot of energy that you can use for action. This fact has been used by the global events multiple times in order to manipulate the human population for their own selfish purposes. And now if you look at certain events that were taking place in the history, they were always aligned with the increased solar activity. For example, this Russian invasion on Ukraine, I'm not talking about the one that is taking place right now, but in 2014, that was aligned with the increased solar activity. And here's just like an interesting fact, because the reason why the royal families, especially kings and queens, ruling a country always had their own astrologists was because through observing the solar activity and at times increasing it through all sorts of magical rituals, so they were sometimes helping the sun a little bit, it was easy to predict when an accumulation of certain events, such as pandemics, wars, or social unrest, would occur, and what is the best time for military operations and such. Everything that we read about in history books, all sorts of global conflicts or pandemic diseases, were always occurring periodically, and they were perfectly aligned with solar, stellar, and moon activity and different planetary alignments. If we look at things from this perspective, we can realize that nothing that happened on this planet has ever been coincidental. Obviously, it's never been, and it won't be. And some very ancient bloodlines still glorify same solar and lunar entities they used to worship ages ago. Due to increased solar activity, we may expect the volcano eruptions, and that is already taking place, right? Especially with this volcano in Iceland. Changes on the economical market. And I would say a little bit of the social unrest, but I wouldn't say that it's only in negative sense of that word, but more like there's a lot of people feeling that something is gonna happen, and that's because you feel this energy that is affecting all of us, and this energy, since it's potential energy switching to kinetic energy, from what I remember from school, the kinetic energy is actually like more of the one that is related to movement. So it's basically that you can use these current energies for your own benefit as well. And also, it's worth noticing that it's not just the solar activity cycle, but the current solar cycle that we are at is aligned with other very powerful events taking place. That's why we may experience the most powerful solar activity cycle so far that has ever occurred on this planet. So this is really exciting. And it's not like the world is gonna crash or anything like that. It's not gonna take place. There are some communities that are talking about some kind of Mayan calendar actually ending in 2024 instead of 2012. Well, that's not really true on the first place. That's what the Thoth has given us, this huge Mayan calendar that got twisted. So there are a lot of movements that again start to speak about the end of the world, but it's actually this solar energy which is driving them around all over the place. And now I also received a question, what are the solar flares doing to us? So the solar flares go directly to the plasma template first, and then through the energetic circuits into the light body and atomic body. The solar flares upgrade our frequency very rapidly, but at the same time cause such a quick clearing on multiple layers, because remember it starts in the plasma template, so it's going right to the core, that we may experience some strong emotional clearing, release of imprints from the past and future timelines, and consciousness shifts and expansion. And what I've been personally lately observing on my sessions is a lot of either these projected feelings of fear that are coming from the past timelines, and these feelings of fear from the past timelines need to be cleared, or they are being projected through the fields of the artificial intelligence as well. And there's also like a lot of kind of these things as if some people are still very emotional about different aspects of their past, as if they cannot let go of certain people. Like there's this kind of obsessive thinking that starts to take place. And it's often coming, well, it's usually coming from these past life connections. So it's like all of these different past life connections and the future life connections that we had, they are coming into the now moment, And that's why we may feel the feelings of love, the feeling of lust, joy, sadness. We may feel it like 10,000 times more than usual. We can be more emotional because that's what the solar frequency is doing. It's causing like a very strong purification and amplification of all of these feelings. So that's why there could be like a huge release of these different imprints. But at the same time, these energies are so strong that you can use them for getting rid of any kind of spells, curses put on you. It's becoming more, I would say, very much more rapid and effective. Frequencies of the sun bring deep healing on emotional and mental body levels. But what is the most significant about the solar flares is that they increase the amount of the life force energy circulating through our bodies. And it doesn't mean you will get more energetic, but you may start to feel when certain energy comes in, and you can start to use it towards, well, not necessarily physical activities, but towards doing something creative. The solar maximum peaks have always been the time of great inventions and increased creativity. We can utilize this solar power and benefit from it greatly. Increase of the life force energy, however, doesn't mean that we may feel more energetic. Well, I thought I didn't write it down. Some of us may feel drained or overwhelmed, as we may sense as if we process too much, as the solar energies come directly to our core templates, causing their massive clearing and purification. And since they are going directly into the plasma templates, it's like you're getting a reset directly from the beginning. So it's something that is extremely powerful and can affect you in different ways. So if you're having a day where you just don't feel like talking to anybody and you just feel like you want to be in your own space, don't feel that something is wrong with you. You may actually need that in order to come to certain realizations about yourself. As humans, we are supposed to live in groups and interact with each other, but we also need the time to reflect on ourselves. And I would say that the times of the solar maximum are also these times of the reflection on ourselves, where we have to decide what kind of actions we want to take to make the most out of these energies, because they can be used against the human race in order to just make ourselves terribly upset and let these energies drive us around. And I feel that this is related to all of those farmers protesting in the entire Europe. They are increasing this social unrest, and it's very easy to make people emotional and upset these days because of so many energies running in their bodies. So it's like you can be either a very powerful angel these days, or you can be like a very big devil if these energies get twisted in you, because if they run in a very chaotic way, then don't be surprised that you're having a mood swing all the time. You need to find a moment in your day when you start to balance these energies in your body, where, for example, you're grounding yourself, or at least you're connecting energetically to the earth core, to the Nomi seed, which is looking like a rainbow bubble in the earth core, and you're just sending these energies like a pillar of energy throughout your whole body, and you're just breathing these rainbow frequencies into your body, and they will start to merge and integrate with these solar frequencies, and they will start to calm you down, because that's what you may need. You may feel sometimes like very, very like, I don't know, not necessarily always emotional, but like something is triggering you. Well, you won't figure it out until you don't become peaceful. So this is what I would recommend everybody. You need to ground these solar frequencies. That's what I've been seeing in my body today when I was just like scanning my body in the morning, and I saw that there's like a lot of sun in my body, even though I haven't been really going out last weekend. And I'm seeing a lot of sun in my body. And I had to kind of release this sun so it starts to circulate through my entire system. And that's when finally I felt like the energy starts to flow in a very peaceful and nice manner. So ground them, otherwise they can drive you crazy. And if there are any kind of fears, anxiety, these energies are trying to show you something that you need to clear, because these energies are conscious. So this is just like an advice here. Okay, so now we'll speak a little bit about the ancient worships of the sun and the solar gods. And basically when we say worship, you can take a look at this as a worship. So whenever some ancients were worshipping somebody, well, for sure they weren't celebrating any kind of being from this planet, more like some kind of stellar gods that had their own warships. But that's just what I noticed. So the sun has always been a subject of great interest among the human race. Initially, angelic humans were aware of their indelible connection not only to the main sun in our solar system, but to other central and core suns too. These aspects of expanded awareness that we all come from. What is that? Okay, I will just start over. These aspects of expanded awareness that we all come from one of the core plasma suns, and we have all aspects of our cosmic identity there, had been a very sacred knowledge for all of us. So in the past, we were aware that everything is coming from that central sun, all of the creation, that everything comes from this beautiful cry star, which is in the core of Sun 8. And that was like a very sacred knowledge that used to be a part of the teachings of the human race. It was pretty much known to everybody. After the fall of Atlantis, a part of the memory matrix that was holding this information was lost. The true teachings about the core suns and their healing powers have been replaced with twisted sciences about solar gods and their worshipping. Introducing these reverse teachings coincided with certain manipulations that have been done by the fallen angelic races to the sun's core and its Merkaba fields that started running partially on reversal and sent twisted beams of frequency to the planet. The solar cult, especially popular among Egyptians, Sumerians, and Phoenicians, these cults were utilizing these energies, causing harm to the planetary grids that started to pick up the same distortion. It also allowed the fallen angelic fractions to control and hypnotize the masses, as well as receive huge amounts of energy through these rituals. So it's been perfectly orchestrated. It started with the solar god in Egypt called the Ra, and then we had all of these different versions of Ra in different beliefs, and that later spread to the Greek and the Roman culture. So all of these ancient celebrations, rituals of the sun, they were supposed to basically keep repeating the same reversal that was taking place, specific movements, specific rituals that the solar priests were performing. That was basically causing the increase of these different distortions that kept taking place. And of course, it also allowed huge amounts of energy being drained throughout these different rituals. So if you ever took part in any kind of ritual that was involving the inorganic use of the sun, but by asking some gods to I don't even know what you're doing in such rituals, but whatever, if you ever took place in any kind of rituals like that, or you feel like you did in your previous lifetimes, then it would be the best if you just erase it from your timeline. That's what I'm recommending to people these days. If you had any session with a healer that didn't resonate with you and you feel like this person affected you in a negative way, just erase that meeting from your timeline. Just kind of imagine that you're walking through the tunnel, which is your timeline, and suddenly there's like that session displaying on the TV screen in that tunnel, and just erase it as if it never happened. You have the power to do that because you have free will to choose to create and shape your timeline as much as you want. And we are going to speak more about it next week, because we are going to speak about the free will and the boundaries and the conscious boundaries of the free will, but that's gonna be next week. Okay. So now when we get to the question, I kind of partially answered it, but just to kind of make it clear, why the energies of the sun have been manipulated. If you can distort a sun's biofield, you can affect the entire system that is connected to it. The easiest way to twist the entire solar system was to start reversing the sun, which is in the center of it. And the reason why there's so many conflicts in the Orion system is because we've got the metagalactic sun located in Orion, in the 8th dimension. And that's why it's like a place that is protected by the guardian races, but at the same time there are many conflicts happening in Orion. And kind of the same case is with our solar system because of the planet's connection to the failsafe. That's what has been done in this system, using a connection to the parallel universe sun that had already been twisted before. Besides that, the central sun is the provider of life force energy to the entire system that circulates around it. If you want to create a phantom system on a larger scale, the easiest way to do it is to cut off the main energy supplier, which is the sun. The solar energy is essential to maintain life on the planet. That's why it didn't get removed completely, it only got limited. Manipulations that took place with the sun started to affect us in a few different areas. First of all, these different solar distortions began to distort and affect the plants and animals. So it also started to affect the quality of the food that we are eating. Through the solar cult, we developed a distorted connection with the sun, where we were thinking that, well, the sun is a god, so we need to basically give some sacrifice to it instead of simply co-creating with it. Because the sun is a very conscious being. It has a mind of itself. You can connect with the consciousness of the sun. But the sun will never tell you that it wants any kind of human or animal sacrifice so you could receive its grace. The sun will always tell you that the power is in you and we can co-create together as one. So if you're having any kind of issues with grounding, it may be also related to some imprints of the solar cult that you are having in your template, either coming from the ancestral imprint or you directly taking part in some kind of solar rituals. And the third one, we stopped receiving pure energies that enabled the solar symbiosis. All of it has been done to create a closed system and separate us as much as possible from the source. So this is actually, like, I would say, the most malicious distortion, because normally if we were receiving the full spectrum of the sun, it would be going into our bodies and it would affect our consciousness in a very transformative way. We would feel the connection to the source, while the reason why this planet is so dormant, the reason why so many souls are still sleeping, is because they are not receiving a lot of the life force currents. It's like if you look at typical people walking on the street and being just closed in their 3D world, you will see that actually they are not really having much of the life force energy in them. It just feels artificial. And that's because when you start to connect with different energies on a spiritual level, there is a lot of life force. There is a lot of life force flowing into your body, while if you don't do that and you're not even aware of it, because the awareness itself, it already starts to connect you on some levels to these currents. But if you don't have an awareness of that, there is like a huge separation that you may experience in your life, and later on you may feel like you're not really on the path that you're supposed to be on because of so little currents that are coming to you. So that's where that sense of disconnection is coming from. Okay, and now let me see what else I've got here. So I'm going to speak a little bit about what is the condition of the sun now. So the sun started its Bardo death cycle in 2007 due to massive manipulations of its core. This process kept going for 15 years until 2022, and each year the sun would release one-dimensional level of the Rasha ring. And the Rasha body is connecting the light body anatomy with the plasma body anatomy. So like this interface was broken. This means that the sun would very quickly lose its energy quantum and implode within 200 years. However, due to the sun opening its Kala Okshatay plasma time template seals in 2015, the sun opened itself for the internal eternal frequency spectra. So that means it received a major upgrade of its quantum, and thanks to it, its lifespan has been greatly extended. Once we transform into the internal creation cycles, we will have an access to much larger, more expanded sun. Right now, the sun is going through a very intense activity cycles because it is getting recharged with Sun 8 core frequencies, and it is beaming these frequencies to the rest of the planets that rotate around it. Thanks to it, the entire solar system starts to heal itself. The sun may be dying on its atomic light body level, but its plasma template is being regenerated. And just to make that very clear, the suns are eternal, the stars are eternal, the planets are eternal. So that means that there isn't something like the cycle of the death of the sun or a star. This happens only because of certain distortions in their structure and their fields. So basically, all of these different implosions that the scientists have observed, this is because our galaxy is distorted, and basically the Merkaba fields are running on reversals. So the planet or the star starts to deplete itself from its organic energies instead of receiving the energy supplies. So now, Another question that I received was about the second sun and what is it? That lots of people report on the second sun and what does that really mean? So that's gonna be interesting, what I'm gonna say now. And again, this is purely theoretical. I'm sometimes having very vivid visions and they don't make sense until I don't go through certain topic or through a certain material, either for my classes or for my show, and then suddenly it's like this light bulb is getting turned on in my head, and suddenly I know how come it is connected to the rest of the things. So our real sun is actually hidden behind a veil. It is covered by the artificial frequency fence that surrounds the entire planet. And there is like a one extra lens that covers the sun. So we don't even fully see its true color. That's why some of the solar currents are blocked from entering the planet directly, due to the artificial cover or lens that doesn't allow us to fully experience the entire spectra of the solar energies. Our sun is actually much bigger than we can imagine. According to science, the sun constitutes about 99.86% of the total mass of the solar system. And now let's think like how huge it is. Like 99.86%, I mean that's like almost the entire solar system, and we still have like tiny planets around it, right? If it is so huge, why do we see it as a small light ball on the sky? We are having one sun, but due to the lens, we don't see how big and incredible it is. And the vision that I had a couple of months ago was that and the colors were much different. It's like I was technically in some kind of like a forest, and there was like a meadow that I was standing on, and I was just like surrounded by the forest. But the green was so intense that I don't think you can compare it to any kind of green that you would be able to see on this planet. And I was seeing that the sky was in this not really blue color that we are seeing on the regular sky, but it was like this very pale aqualine blue, kind of like in the color of the ocean, let's say, but like a very, very pale blue. And the sun was at least 5 times bigger, if not even more. And it was shining with this incredibly white, bright color. And it was really, really massive. And then when I was watching the sunset, well, the sunsets are beautiful. They are very romantic. But that sunset that I was seeing with this sun that was 5 times larger, well, that was impressive. That was really like, wow, amazing. And then it got to me that I was seeing the sun and its actual size before that lens was put on the sun. So that's how big it used to be before we had that huge frequency fence set up. So I cannot wait until this entire artificial network goes down, because we will be able to see and experience beautiful things. The second sun may be also a specific type of a Mandela effect that comes either from the parallel universe or the inner Earth reality fields. So we may be sometimes seeing there's two suns, because it's kind of like a blending effect of two different timelines that are very close to each other. So now, let me see. So I'm gonna try to explain it as good as possible because I actually wasn't aware of it until this morning when this name Uron, sun, came in. And I was like, what is it? And then I just started writing this paragraph and it just came through. So I'm gonna do my best to explain it as good as I can. So just to clarify about what we spoke about in the beginning, when I was speaking about the crystar, I'm talking about these 8 core plasma suns, and they have this crystar 0 point or the crystar flame in the center of the entire structure. But then when I'm speaking about the crystar structure, it is like all of the externalized creation and all of the templates that are behind it, which are these plasma suns and all of the internal creation fields. And this is like the crystar structure. This is like a structured bubble cosmoverse, let's say. But even as Yesha indicated, there are multiple crystars. And now there is a certain structure that needs to manufacture these crystars. It's like they cannot just come out of nothing. So there are suns that produce crystars. A crystar is a system that exists within the central Sun 8 core field. It is a very well deliberately organized fractal structure that follows the divine blueprint of the Christ Nomi code. It is an internal eternal structure. However, there are many crystars, many structured bubbles. In the eternal creation core source fields, we can find very specific structures that manufacture crystars, and they are referred to as the Uron suns, so-called the radiant suns of the silent, invisible shine. So it's like, if you tried to kind of tune in, how do these suns look like? Well, you may see nothing because it's like they exist, but they don't really have any core substance. They are just like pure source consciousness. And when they try to densify just a little bit, they start to form the structure of the crystal. This is like this crystal spark is coming out of this Uron sun, and then it starts to grow and expand itself, following that divine order that it has in its template. The mission and purpose of the eternal creation fields is to enable new experiences in the source fields that can help this one consciousness evolve and grow. And like you might think, why would the source, if it's like everything, if it's in unity, why would it do that? Well, I often like to refer, as somebody who had to study philosophy for 2 years constantly, I like to refer to the beliefs of Hegel, who has this theory of the spirit that is basically the core substance of the whole, of everything that exists is the spirit. And the spirit is going through different evolutionary cycles where it's losing its identity, and then through different evolutionary cycles, it's reclaiming its identity again, in very simple terms. And the spirit is doing that because it's actually not aware that it's perfect. So it kind of needs to experience different sets of events in order to keep growing and expanding and becoming even more perfect and realizing that it's already perfect. And I do feel that is the same way with the source. Like it is aware of its expansion, but it keeps expanding, or more, even not like really expanding, but experiencing itself in all sorts of shape and form. So the crystars keep being created in order for such experiences to take place. These core eternal suns set up the structure for new crystals to come to place. All of the crystals are based on the core NOMI code and later Christ code encryption that they receive. When the entire crystal fulfilled its evolutionary purpose, it comes back through the series of multiple cycles back to the core of the sun, of the Urian sun from which it originally came from. And let me see if I have written anything here. And there are 12 Urian suns with the 0-point center. So this is the base structure that later on the entire crystal is following. And a place referred to as the Urolake Conservatory is in charge of enabling the entire crystal in keeping the connection with its core Urian sun and the 0 point of all creation. So this is pretty much how it works. There are 12 Urian suns of the eternal core creation. So I hope this makes any sense to you. This is what literally came to me today. And well, I'm just sharing this with you. You can take it or not. Okay. So now when it comes to the connection to the eternal suns, like, do we even have such connection? So again, it kind of came like a stream that it's funny when I'm writing all of these things, I don't even know how the sentence will finish. I just start to write the first two words that I'm inner hearing, and then I'm just writing it, and it all starts to create a story. So that's basically how it works. So the plasma body connects you to the crystal core. That means to the Sun 8 fields. The Urea body connects you to the eternal Urian suns. Activation of your plasma body allows you for full reconnection, which actually means remembering that we have that connection, because we are always connected to the core of the Sun 8. It's just like we forgot about that connection. So it's about remembering and embodying this connection with the Sun 8 core, which is the center point of the crystal. Activation of your Urea body allows you for embodiment of the core eternal Urian suns, and thus the full access to the eternal creation spectra of frequency through the planetary access to the NOMI seat, which is the Earth's eternal self-imprint. And it's worth mentioning that sun is actually the element of fire. It can burn you or energize you. It is a great energy potential that you can use for deeper healing. The sun can be your protector once you start to embody its higher frequencies. So it's not just about the sun gazing, but kind of making that conscious relationship with the sun. And this will actually very much help you embody these different plasma currents that are coming, because actually it feels like we are receiving the energies directly from this Urian sun, from which this crystal is coming from. So this is really exciting, and that is allowing us to also activate our Urea body. That is the body that could never get hijacked, because just to be clear, smaller structures inside of the crystal can fall, but the crystal itself cannot fall, which is great, I think. Okay. So I'm gonna very rapidly change the topic when it comes to speaking about the sun and the parallel universe sun, and how to check if you're having any evil twins messing with you. because actually I mentioned that the solar flares can kind of cause different mental body distortions. And that could be also like releasing different things from your timelines, but that could be also related to your evil twins. So let's take a look at how it's all beautifully interconnected. The 55 Death Star Merkaba configuration of the reversed Merkaba field first got activated in the antiparticle parallel universe. These distortions were later spread by the parallel gates and the frequency field that is surrounding this planet to cause the same reversals in the particle universe. This plan was a part of something referred to as the Alpha Omega, where they first reversed the parallel universe and the parallel Earth and the Sun, and that is called the Alpha system. And we are the Omega because we are the end of this plan. So when we refer to the Alpha Omega, think about what you're really saying, because like it's a part of the big agenda. The frequency field on this planet is still being used to transmit reversed frequencies from the parallel universe. Due to the planet activating its eternal host, this connection began to get much weaker. That's why during the 2023 December solstice, so the solstice that we just had, this parallel code started to get activated in us. The connection between us and our antiparticle double, the evil twin, is being used as a link to bring the Metatronic distortions into our system. Most of these transmissions are being sent through the artificial intelligence grid. So now I was giving that technique when I was doing the video that I refer to many times because it feels like it's important. And again, the universe is showing me that it's important. When it comes to disattaching yourself from this antiparticle self, like your double, your evil twin, whatever you want to call it. But actually we can have a lot of versions of them because they could be cloned or they could be transferred to other stellar systems. So it's like a never-ending story. I'm gonna give a quick technique on how you can check if you have other evil twins. It turned out that I had two. So that was really interesting. And when I removed them, I just felt like a part of me came back. So that was really cool. Okay. So the way you search for your evil twins, try to see a reflection of yourself as if you were displaying yourself, like your body, the way you look like, on the TV screen on the back of your forehead. So you just close your eyes and you just project yourself in front of your forehead as if you wanted to see yourself, how you look like, right? Try to sense if you're feeling just yourself or some kind of disturbing presence, because it may turn out that once you project yourself on the back of your forehead, you may start to feel like, oh, I don't think I'm alone. And now, if you feel like this, it may indicate you either have some beings in your field or some evil twins trying to hijack your identity. Start to sense the pale blue or white golden plasma light. So it's your choice. It can be either the pale blue or the white golden plasma light from your pineal gland center to your image of yourself that you created on the back of your forehead. So you just keep imagining yourself and you just keep sending that light towards yourself and see what starts to happen. So we keep sending that light for a moment. And do you begin to multiply or not? If you start to see multiple versions of yourself They symbolize all of the doubles of yourself that you have. So let's say you start to send this white golden light to that image of yourself on the back of your forehead. And you suddenly see like that you start to have like an entire group of people that look like you. That means that you're having so many different evil twins. Just the evil twins, not even mentioning the clones, but here we focus on the evil twins. And if you have them, start to clear them with the plasma light. And if you start to get confused, which one is real and which one is not, just keep spreading this plasma and it will kind of work by itself, or you will see that one of them will just won't be able to disappear. So that means that this one will be real. And the other ones will just start to turn into vapor, and just later on, as you see this vapor being created, just breathe it in back into your system. So this is like a quick technique when it comes to dealing with the evil twins. And as I said, it's important so you won't receive these reversed transmissions that are coming from the antiparticle universe. Okay, so I would say that this is pretty much it. I think I went through all of the questions, all of the things that I have written just today. So thank you so much for listening. And just like an announcement from the People for People, if you listen on Rumble, please click all the like and the follow buttons because it helps to spread the word of the show. You can also follow the channel directly so you can receive all of the shows that will be coming up. It will help the platform grow, and all of the people that want to speak their own truth, they will be able to keep spreading their truth, and it will keep basically reaching larger and larger audience. So thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next week. And if you want to ask me a question for the next week's show, I'm going to speak about the free will and the conscious boundaries. So I'm going to speak a little bit about how certain situations may be the breach of somebody else's free will when you don't even realize it, whether it's safe or not to do some kind of different healings or clearings for other people, what are the dangers and the risks of it, and how is the free will seen in terms of the universal law. So if you have any questions when it comes to this subject, you're most welcomed to just hit me up with a message. And if I haven't been replying to you for a couple of days, just a message, I will get back to you as soon as possible. I'm not ignoring you. There's been a lot of things that have been going on also related to the show. So this is just a message to all of those that are listening to me, but you still didn't get an answer back from me when it comes to any kind of emails or the messages I was receiving. So I wish you a wonderful evening or a wonderful day, whatever time it is for you, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.